Okay, hello everybody and welcome. It's James Dearsley here from the Midweek Marketing Mix, and as ever I have got a fantastic panel. I'm really pleased to sort of welcome a complete global mix of people. We've got Martin Shervington based in Brazil, we've got Nazim Beltram in Italy, we have got Anna Bennett based in Canada, we've got Kath and myself based in the UK. So we're all over the shop, and we're here to give you sort of the most up-to-date information about marketing, what's been going on, what's been happening, hopefully what's new, or some really good tips on certain platforms that you can use. So the usual sort of stuff, really as a bit of housekeeping, which I'll keep on reminding everybody as we go through. I use the Showcase app purely and simply to give you more information as we're talking about sort of the latest news and tips and tricks, and they will appear in the Showcase on the right or left-hand side of your screen. If you're in Google Plus watching this live, basically if you want to comment, do go above my head and you should see a little square with an arrow in it, and if you click on that it'll take the video outside of the event page and you can still comment in the comment box as usual. If you're watching this recorded, there's a little bit at the bottom left, I think it is, of the screen which says be a part of the conversation. Just click that and you'll get all of the links that we're talking about in this conversation for you to click on and understand a little bit more information about it all. So the idea of this is that we have little 10-minute segments, a little sort of snippets of the information, and what I thought we'd start on really is, oh, and by the way, I'm deliberately wearing a yellow t-shirt here because it is so miserable over here in the UK at the moment. It is pouring down with rain. I needed a bit of sunshine in it all, so hence my yellow shirt. But what I wanted to bring in is there's been a big bit of news recently in the SEO world talking about this latest Panda update. We all know a lot of the sort of the SEOs amongst us sort of recoil in fear about what's going to happen on this. So what we wanted to do is just give you a little bit of information about where we are, what we're doing, and so on and so forth. So, Kath, do you want to take it over and just sort of tell us what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I brought my Panda along with me as well. So it doesn't say very much, but he might jump in if I get anything wrong. So basically, Panda is an algorithm update that you shouldn't be scared of because it is something that you can do something about quite easily. It's been around for a long time. This is the 27th, I think, Panda update. It's called 4.1 and it started to roll out from the week beginning the 23rd of September. So it's about 2.5 weeks ago. And it is a very slow rollout of this particular update, and it is global. Basically, what it's about is thin content. So, what is thin content? Thin content is basically not a lot of information on a web page. So, if you take, for instance, an e-commerce site, because that's quite an easy example to talk about. If you sell screwdrivers, and if you have 5 screwdrivers in 5 different colours and 5 different shapes and sizes, you don't want to have 25 pages that talk about this one screwdriver, because the only difference you're going to have on there is the size and the colour and the price. So there's not a lot of content to have on there, and that's the kind of thing that Google are trying to say, look, think about what you're presenting on your website. Have one page that's got filters so that you can have different filters for different colors and different sizes, but fundamentally you've got one page, and on that page you can make that the best page it can be about that particular content. And so think about your own websites, think about what content do you have on there, what kind of journeys are you trying to take people on, how's your navigation structured, and just make sure you're not taking people really far down into really thin pages. And that's the kind of thing that Panda is looking at. Now, John Muller was talking in a Google Webmaster seminar recently, online on a Hangout, and he was quite adamant that he didn't want it to be considered to be a penalty, because what you can do something about it, and Google are wanting to reward sites that do very well with it. And so they're looking for positive signals as well as signals that say this is thin content. So for everything that's effectively penalised, something else is lifted up. So you want your content to be lifted up out of this as a result of Panda by making your content the best that it can be and not thin content. And we've seen some absolutely fantastic results over the years, because the first Panda update was, I think it was April 2011. So they've been around for a long time. And SEOs do know what to do about Panda and how to help sites get out of any mess they might be in. So if you're finding yourself struggling with Panda, then do ask some questions, get some help, because you should be able to lift out of this with, if not this update, then the next update. Are there any questions that in particular? I'm not actually looking at the thread at the minute to see if there's anything that people want to cover specifically about this update.
No, I think I wanted to bring in one there because I'd read about this this update, and again they mentioned about this low quality content and essentially this thin content, as you mentioned. And one of the things that I picked up on this was that, as ever with what Google are trying to do, they're trying to refine the amount of content out there and making sure it's decent. And one of the things that I picked up on, and I have seen it before previously, is that longer blog posts generally are better in terms of search, in terms of social, in terms of shareability. Is that something that you've found? And they were quoting between 1,000 and 1,500 words per article per post.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the sweet spot. Definitely writing long form content, we found a lot better results with long form content. It's just obviously that takes longer, and to make it really good quality, then you've got to put more time and effort into it. So depending on resources and time available, if you can do that, then I would say definitely do that. Maybe you could do one of those once a month. To get that greater traction on it. But yes, definitely long form content on your blog is better than a consistent stream of really short stuff. But probably one long form once a quarter is not going to do it. So it's all a balance, isn't it? It depends on what time and resources you have available. But you wouldn't be expected to write kind of 1,500 words on a product page, for instance. So it very much depends on you look at your whole site and the whole user experience. And you want to make sure that anybody visiting your site has the most opportunities to find it, but also can then navigate to what they want fairly quickly, and ideally buy. So everything is about capturing as many people as possible and channeling them through your site with a great experience, and hopefully buying from you and having a great after experience as well.
Absolutely. I can't believe there's been 27 updates since in theory 2011, if that's what you said. That's an awful lot.
I don't think they've been quite as regular recently. They were closer together kind of last year and earlier, but 27 altogether. So they're not, it almost feels like they're just part of the landscape now. It's not, so there's an update, a Panda update, great, it's not something to be afraid of. It's only something to be worried about if it hits your traffic and you're wondering why it hits. Well, there are lots of places you can get the actual dates from. So Moz has an algorithm change list that gives you all the dates of all the algorithm things that happen. So if your traffic is affected at any particular time, you can go along and have a look at those dates and see if there's any algorithm updates that hit around the time that your traffic changes. And that will give you a good idea as to whether you're likely to have been affected by something. But like I said, Panda's been around a long time, and maybe Penguin hopefully will come around fairly soon. There's been quite a lot of chat about that being fairly imminent. It's been a year since the last one, and I know a lot of people are wanting that to happen soon. So that one is a little less predictable, I think, in terms of it's quite easy to recover from a Panda update. Because you just get rid of your thin content. Just make it meaty, make it unique. Don't use manufacturer descriptions. Make sure it's the best it can be, and then you should recover from Panda. It's kind of self-contained within your site, whereas Penguin is more about links that are a bad link profile, and that's more difficult to affect. It takes more time. But because it's been a year now, then you'd hope that algorithm update would come along, because there's a lot of people suffering from the last Penguin update, and they need a new update in order to get a new link profile.
Yeah, very good. And I think just for everybody who's watching, there is a an article that Kath has written from Strategy Digital, all talking about the update, and I think that is the Penguin update coming up later this month. Right?
Yeah. It's just basically we want to make sure that anybody who works with us is aware that this could be coming along. Make sure you keep these algorithm updates in mind because they shouldn't be a surprise. Google is constantly changing. As long as you're doing the right things, then actually you shouldn't have too much to worry about. It's if you're trying to game it still, that's really not smart.
No, that is fair enough. Well, look, just some sort of comments coming in. Peter Larnett is saying, of course, Kath Dawson, very clear explanation about Panda, so you can pat him on the head behind you. William Rock, William, thank you ever so much. You've got some great stuff coming on in the stream. And just again for people, if they're watching a recorded version, this is just an example of some of the stuff that William's put in. I will make sure that what is mentioned in here will actually be in the Showcase app. For those of you watching recorded can find this stuff. Is a link to a date list for all the algorithm updates, which has just come in here. So, William, really appreciate that, and sort of keep that coming in as well. Yeah, that's great. Thanks ever so much for that, Kath. I really appreciate it. And again, for those of you who are watching, again, we are using the Showcase app. So if you want to comment, ask any questions of any of us here today, please just do the little. If you wiggle your mouse, there's a little box with an arrow above my head. Click on that, and you'll be able to comment in the event stream. Okay, so fine. Thank you, Kath. That's great. Moving on, so obviously we have little short segments in this show. We're going to go on to Nazim, and Nazim's based out in Italy, and I asked Nazim to come on, quite late on actually in this, because I should really have started this show by saying hello, because there's been an awful lot of discussion about this new social network which is coming on. A lot of people exasperated, a lot of people interested, a lot of marketeers saying, wow, we've got another platform to work with. But fundamentally, look, this is a platform that people are saying, have a little look around. So, Nazim, why don't I just sort of pass it on to you in this sense? I'm going to put the some of the stuff you may talk about in the showcase so people can have a little look at it. First thoughts on Elo. What's been going on? Tell us.
Well, basically, it's a very recent phenomenon, as everybody knows. Even here in Italy, as I mentioned to people, they look at me with blank stares going, what are you talking about? But it's a brand new platform which is kind of grabbed its popularity due to the fact that some issues with Facebook regarding some privacy issues and things that have been popping up recently. So it's supposed to be this mass exodus of people leaving Facebook to Elo, which is fomented by some things that have happened over and on that platform. I do not believe so much in the issue that this is it's ad-free as opposed to Facebook. This is the Facebook killer. This is a brand new social media, and as a reference, I've looked at Mark Traphagen, who's put out a fantastic document, and also indicated a lot of interesting points of view from his company, Stone Temple Consulting, to look at this new platform, because you have to invest time in these sort of things, in these sort of new platforms, and not, I can understand some people say, well, no, it's totally, it's very clean, it's very, you can't share stuff. Everybody's accustomed to their different platforms. I jumped into it from the standpoint of view of getting excited about it and saying, like, well, I'm going to give it a shot, not as an individual person, but I'm going to try to do it as a brand. Casa Chiesi, which is what me and my wife have been working on since August. I said, let's just go in Elo and see what's going on here and start posting pictures of Italy, posting and seeing where the traction can bring back over to the website as another social media tool. I keep reading a lot of great articles. Another shout out to Anna Hoffman, who's done a fantastic post on LinkedIn, in which she just really summarizes a whole series of aspects that are revolving around this platform, which is brand new. And what's very interesting about it is the founder, Paul Budnitz. They started this as a group of artists that were basically just chatting between themselves in a closed circuit. And now they decided to open it up, and then they have investors coming in looking at it. But I keep reminding people that Facebook sort of started this way too, in the sense that Mark Zuckerberg, he basically was at a university, and he started this as something internal in a university setting, and then from there went on to what. So the issue about privacy issue about your data not being carried through. Those are quite interesting things that might attract to a lot of people. I did a little interesting test this week talking to a couple of my friends about Facebook and saying, like, does the fact that Facebook now is really pushing all the advertisements, is it driving you away from, and they're like, no, I don't even look at they don't even look at the ad, they just let the advertising swing by and they just keep posting and doing their Facebook things, and I don't think, that that's going to be one of the reasons, or people are going to say, I'm leaving Facebook to jump into Ello. But I totally think that Ello is a very interesting new social media platform to look at, and I'm involving it in our strategy at Kazakezi, from that standpoint of view.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, I'll put it out there. I think, Kath, you're on there. I think, Martin, you're on there, just sort of delicately around the edges like I am. Have you guys got any thoughts on this as to the motivations and so on and so forth? Just putting it out there, really.
Fly diving, Kath. Fly diving. So tell you my quick take before you unmute. Hello, everyone. Relationships. I think you can break through the noise, and I think that it was Thomas Hawke that said that he's had more conversations on there than he's had for ages, because you can't just like, or you can't just plus one. You get into the comments, and you can't reshare stuff either at the moment. So it's engaged. There are conversations that are happening. Now the example. So going back to the first thing I said, which is breaking through the noise. I think Google Plus, you can break through the noise. You can still break through the noise. People respond, and we have our methods of plus one, comment, share, and you build relationships. Now, take that concept of relationship building across to Ello. I don't know how I came across Deepak Chopra's profile, but I added him in. He adds me back. That wouldn't happen at an early stage or so a late stage rather, because you wouldn't necessarily notice the notification on Google Plus or on Twitter. It'd just be another. But on there, it's still a novelty. So the potential for my content to be seen by him, that I want, and this is very much plus your life stuff more than plus your business, but if that was the case, then suddenly I've got a way of getting his attention. And I think that's one of the most valuable things with any new social network, is that it's new. So there is a novelty factor, and that people will basically support you in a way to just, I don't know. I've got people walking past. I won't even tell you.
But no, I tell you what, picking up on that, because I always call it the first mover advantage. And funny enough, the people that I'm seeing on Ello are people in the marketing world. And as you absolutely right in the way that you put it there, Martin, which is, quite frankly, if you want to find the influencers out there, they're probably the ones who are jumping onto this platform now to look and see what it's all about. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a perfect example of saying, well, actually, hey, do you know what? I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. Let's connect up with these people, because you're probably leapfrogging a whole load of work in other platforms because you're there.
Yeah, and I think that in the early days with any of these things, it's like, is it going to happen? It's a bit like turning up at a party and everyone's going, we're going to make, is it, when's it starting? What has happened? When are they going to change the music? When are they going to put the volivants out? Whether, and sausages on sticks, when's it going to happen? When's that thing going to happen? And it's like you invest in that very early stage, just obviously volivants and cocktail sausages, a kid of the 80s, 70s, really. But you're taking a risk.
That's a good point. Very good.
But if you focus on relationships, you're not, because what you're doing is cross-contextualizing conversations very much. It's a different. They're like psychological spaces, the same as communities on Google+. You enter into them, and we'll be talking about Pinterest after, and it feels different. You're in a different place. It's like you have a conversation at the gym, and then you have one at the restaurant, and you have one which is by a bus stop, and the context changes the relationship with that person, because you've got more information. And I think that's something which you can look at. It's a very useful tool, and Twitter, and Pinterest, and Facebook, because people behave differently because the context is different. So you can't plus one, comment, share. You can't do the things, so you are forced to do other things. And that's where creativity comes in as well, which we can see. There was a bread icon. They got some cool icons. It's kind of fun. There was a little bread icon that people have been passing around, which is like a like. So people are starting to generate memes, concepts of not thought or behavior that move through that platform as a way of holding communication together. And that's creative. And I think that's one of the things they've allowed it to be so simple that can happen. However, it hasn't got Hangouts. It hasn't got a search engine. It hasn't. This is my initial starting point. It's like, I'm not going to be over there that much, but it's relationships, and that's great. And that's something that we've all connected on there. So it just adds more to us as a group.
I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I find almost, I don't know if it's insulting or what, but you often get people saying, but it's not Google+, it's not Facebook, it's not Twitter. And you're going, look, there is not going to be another overriding platform like a Facebook again, necessarily. It'll change and morph and do it. But you're always going to get these little tiny pockets of platforms and pockets of networks where people will be based. It'll be their preference. People don't, are not necessarily like all of us who are perhaps on multiple platforms. They will be biased to one or two. Your clients will be biased to one or two. And so it's about understanding and knowing them each and understanding them for their strengths.
That's a great point, James. I totally agree with what you're saying. It's exactly a nice summary of the aspects of this new tool, which, it's a new tool. It's another one in the arsenal of all the instruments that we can play with and explore. Some people will hate it. Some people will say, no, it's not for me. And, that's normal. I think it's totally normal.
Actually, I'll tell you what, this is an interesting one. Michelle's just popped this in, and I haven't even considered, did anyone use... Actually, it's just disappeared from my screen. That's very strange. I'm going backwards. Are you guys getting me backwards?
No, you're looking fine.
No, it's the comment tracker's just broken down. But anyway, Michelle has just said, did anyone use Circle Count for trying to find G+ friends on Elo?
Yeah, there is. There is in that document by Mark Traphagen, there is a reference of how to do that in Circle Count. I think it's in the link that you might be putting inside the show.
Interesting.
And it's useful, and it's insightful, and I think so.
It is. It's
brilliant at helping connect things. I mean, and that's something which, when you're looking at your list, you realise that the top people, the numbers, and you look at the numbers on Elo, and you see how early days it is.
Yeah.
And you also you get a lot of insights that
The funny thing is that happens is that going into the platform is that we end up looking for all our people that we have in Google Plus on the same platform and start adding in their friends, and so that's what makes it quite that carry through from Google Plus is occurring.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I tell you what, I think just to sort of summarize over the top of that for a second, because we're going to move on in a minute here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would say about Elo, from what I've understood, and some of the articles which are in that Showcase app, there's particularly, I think, Mark Traphagen's guide, which is a massive. I don't know how they brought it out so quickly, but it's a guide to everything you need to know: formatting, finding people you want, little tidbits of information about Elo in its essence, which is you can either put friends as in friends, or you can put them in a noise section, which is essentially the same in G+, where you have notifications if they're really important and mean something to you, or as in general circles. There's an awful lot of information in there. Little tidbits, which a lot of people have found frustrating, which is where do you find out about this stuff? And that you follow the ampersand WTF, which is basically the account for Elo and all the information and the about information. All of that stuff is in those Showcase information that we've put out there as well. So I hope that helps the thing. Anything else from that to add on that, Nazim?
Just one last thing, which is very curious. Does everybody know why it's not elo.com? Obviously, because the domain was taken. So it's located in Colombia, the server, elo.co, which is quite interesting. And if you do a search on it, there's a lot of interesting information for the geeks who want to find out a little bit more about what runs on the servers and things of that nature.
That is. Well, look, I'm just going to conclude. Now, I just need to ask you a question. Are you seeing Ursula's quote here, or are you seeing me still?
No, I see you perfectly.
Interesting. Now, I'm trying to bring a quote into the channel, but it's not. Ursula has just mentioned. She said, regarding Elo and any other new channel that arrives in the future. I heard this quote just yesterday. It says, when you are new to a channel, don't try to fit into what you do now. Learn how to fit what you do into the channel.
Very good. I like that. I like that.
Thank you. That's a great way to end it up. Okay, look, we're going to move on to something which is very disarming now, which I realized yesterday in a chat with a colleague of mine over a Hangout, that I'd watched somebody's Hangouts too many times when I started copying body movements and body language, in the sense of Martin Shervington does this a lot to emphasize basically an umbrella or an overriding factor. And he starts in it. And I thought, Christ almighty, I've watched far, far too many
I
Hangouts.
don't even know I do it. I never watch my own Hangouts.
I caught myself mid-air like this going, oh, no, this is really bad. But look, we got Martin on. Thanks, Martin, for joining us over in Brazil. Obviously, you're here to talk about Facebook.
Standard, usual thing. Actually, do you know what the funny thing is, James? I tell you, talking about cross-platform, I've said this for a couple of weeks, but I've been researching the different contexts and the different processes. I didn't realise something about Facebook till yesterday. I'm quite embarrassed I didn't. You can embed Facebook posts, and there's a little embed code, but you can't embed all of them. And so I was trying to work out the whys and the whats and the hows of the privacy, really, and the levels, because I like to understand these things. People realise it doesn't really matter where I am, and I didn't know that. Did you get
to the bottom of it or not?
Yeah, no, I didn't actually. I went back to Google Plus. I like it. Nice. But it's there's a lot to explore, and there's a lot of conversations that I've been having over there with people like Chris Brogan and Mark Schaefer and Ian Cleary, and it's their context. That's where they live, and they're going, yeah, but we've settled here. We that's the little holiday home on Google Plus for us, whereas you live on Google Plus, and this is you popping back to here. And I think it's that kind of mentality, and I think there's a lot of value in the conversations because it's about the relationships. It's not about the platform. I'm only saying platform for Vivekananda.
Oh, yes.
But the platform being that bit where you post stuff. But it's not just about that. It's about the people. Anyway, so you want to talk about Google Plus, James?
Yeah. So come on, what's been going on? What's happening? Anything new out there that we should be aware of?
Newness. Yeah. Well, I think it's lovely. We've got this little community thing that launched yesterday. So you can now display on your profile which communities you belong to, and you can check which ones you want to display. And if a person's a member of that community, they can see it. And if they're not a member, they can't, because it ties in with Google's privacy. The idea there's layers. You go from public, so everyone can see it, and then down to circles, or in this case, in community membership, private communities, and so on. So I think that's really cool. I think, again, it's just an additional thing we wanted for a while, a way for people to find what communities we belong to, what ones we want to promote, and it's there at the top of our profiles, which is kind of useful. So I think it's just a nice little bit of functionality. But yesterday at the same time, Dave Bebris had a lovely interview that came out on Recode, which was Google Plus isn't going anywhere, folks. Google Plus is here to stay. We're in it for the long haul, and this is what the evangelists, as we tend to be, everybody who's passionate about this place. Whoa! Did you see that? I set that up. I did that at that time. Anyway, so.
Hang on, oh, that was a palm tree, right?
That was a palm tree falling in the background. There's a whole big. Good job I wasn't swimming. I can say.
Well, I tell you what, I've got to bring this
Eduardo's.
While you're there, I'm just going to bring this in from. No, I can't even bring it in because the comment tracker's bust. Look, Coach G Moore has actually said, "Are you going to jump in that pool today?" Thank God you didn't.
No, it's not going to happen. But thank you. So you're going to get some activity in the background now.
Did you plan that?
No. This is Brazil, man. You're going to have mosquitoes the size of pigeons come past in a minute, because that's what's been attacking me lately. So, Dave, Google Plus, banter. One of the things I get, people that send me emails, lovely people, send me emails and go, "What's going on, Martin? I hear there's rumors," and I think, and I just say, guys, it's not going anywhere. It can't go anywhere because Google Plus is the social layer that's gone throughout. It's kind of there. That's the future Google. That's kind of why we're investing so much. It's got a search engine. And there you go, okay. And I think what Dave did yesterday is, in a very Google fashion, do a great job for everybody to say, this is our investment. You know, we've got a lot of people in the development team, and he quashed rumors. And I think it was done in a very elegant fashion. And that is significant. The reason it's significant is that we can all believe, and I've got another point actually, we can all believe that this is great to be part of, and that it's connectedness. And we are all over the world in a Hangout. I can see on the comment thread, we've got Vivekananda, we've got William, Rock, Kath posted, we've got Peter Lunn, and we're connected, and we can have conversations, and it brings us closer, and it allows us to potentially connect with people that want to do business as well. So back to marketing. So we can believe in it. And the extra point, search. Right now I'm doing my analytics, and I'm going to put this out fairly soon. 10% from social, 90% from search. That's going to be quite interesting. So I'm going to put all of that out publicly and show you exactly what I've been doing. I've got over a year's worth of data, and I've been making it pretty as well. It's going to be good. So what's the point? Positive stories is what brings people in. This is not a simple tool for people to use. There's lots of different moving parts to it. So you can learn it on the most basic level, that you just put a couple of posts out and you go, yeah, and you add in a couple of circles, well-chosen, curated, potentially filtered circles, and you've added those in, and then you get some stuff in your stream and you engage, and that's all, we know that's just the very start. When you start to take it up a level, then you start, like James, you were using the Showcase app, you've got the comment tracker in, and you're using the Hangouts as the context of that. These take time to learn. Now, people have to feel it's worth investing and that it's not going to go anywhere. And I think that these stories, the positive stories, and the way that we show people, well, this is why you want to do it. And every interview that we do and every article that we write, whatever, that all helps people to go, do you know what? There is a buzz going on over there. Maybe I won't commit all my time to Hello. Maybe I'm going to have a look at Google Plus instead, because that's happening. Whereas when it's people are feeling a little bit more, or listening to the room, it doesn't help. It just doesn't help. So I think that was a good, really good, strong move that supports everything that we've been saying. It doesn't make us, it's aligned, which is great. And Mark Trapp, in particular, mentioned earlier, Mark Trapp-Hagen, and David Amland, and so many other people, we've all been saying the same thing, which is just keep going. Keep building the relationships, build up the trust, look at the content. As I said, the stats on that, again, 10% is coming from social, 90% after social ends is coming from search, because we know how to use the content flow into search.
Absolutely. I tell you what, one thing to bring in, you mentioned the article there, that is actually, it's on Showcase now, so if you want to have a look at that, I'm just going back to Ticket on Live, because it's a very, very good interview in my mind. And I'm just going to share the screen, which you should be able to see here. This is one of the takeaway quotes for me in this, which is, Dave Beveridge just said, look, we are the largest we've ever been. We weren't booted to any part of the campus. We chose to come here. And I think that is that's about as good as you can get in terms of, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, to bring that in. There we go. Right.
Can I ask you a question, James, on this?
Yeah, go for it.
And Kath, and not to exclude Anna and Nazim, but are businesses in the UK, which is why it's more for captive, do they understand what social SEO is about, in your views?
Kath, do you want to start?
Some do, and some don't. It's very mixed, very mixed. I think if you talk to them about engagement, and it's engagement they get, but the investment, initially the investment in Google Plus is hard to sell because it's time intensive and it's difficult to get engagement. It's difficult to get engagement from the right people that are actually going to come through to their site and buy their stuff. And therefore, from an agency perspective, sometimes clients want you to spend time in other areas where they can get a quicker return.
Can I throw another question to James? I think that's great. Can I, just at the risk of turning into an interview for a second, but I'm curious because I don't get opportunities. I'm in Brazil. I haven't been there for a while. James.
Yeah.
I mean, return on investment for social, then? How do you explain that to people?
Cool, it's almost a qualitative discussion, really. I mean, you are getting into an area now, I mean, certainly with the analytics in place, which is where we have a lot of discussions with a lot of people saying, look, we can quantify the returns you're getting from people. But the amount of businesses that I have who, when I say, have you got your analytics in place? Oh, yeah. So, okay, perfect. Have you got your conversion tracking in place based on the buttons that you want to be, where you're generating the revenue? Suddenly they do the basics, but they don't get to the next step. It's a little bit, in my mind, coming back to your first question about social SEO. When I say, are you putting money into SEO? They say, oh, yeah. Okay, what about social SEO? You understand where that's going? Huh? Same thing. It's sort of the first step is done. It's the second step, and they're just about comfortable with this almost quantifiable nature of SEO, and it's now taking them out that comfort zone again and saying, look, let's get to the next step.
Yeah. And AdWords being the other thing, you see, because you've got two existing models which are well known for people that when we talk about Google, one of which is you pay an SEO company. Historically, they did what they did, and they would aim to probably, well, they would do stuff, and your site would move up the ranks, right? So then people go, I'll pay $1,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, right? And then you got the other one, which is AdWords. I will pay per click for people to visit, and I just think there's a great opportunity to start connecting the dots with social and search and traffic and sustained attention through remarketing. And that's something that we're, people know me by now. I'll put it out, within the next couple of weeks. It's just a case of pulling the graphs together. But I think that story will help everybody, not just because we're doing it. I mean, anyone can do it. They can just take their own stats and just show that social activity leads to search, leads to the right people visiting, leads to an action where people sign up, and we may have 50 people sign up a day, which allows you to build the relationship, and those people then purchase. A percentage will purchase. And it just means that you take away this, it feels good, it's about engagement, you've got these plus ones, people go, well, show me the thing on my site, because that's, they don't understand that all of this relational aspect, and I think for a lot of companies, I've said this before, trying to outsource relationships is very, very hard, if not impossible. So
yeah,
you've got to look
it's the challenge of the education, isn't it? I mean, that's, I think, funny enough, Peter, and again, thank you, Vivek, for mentioning that the comment tracker was bust in your HOA yesterday. That's helped me a lot understand it. Sadly, I can't come back in to restart it, but Peter Lund is just saying, he totally agrees about the social SEO comment from Kath Dawson, so that's wonderful. But I will, and I in fact, if any of you have got the comment tracker working on your site,
I can bring it up.
There we go. So you got that one. But could you also bring up Vivek's comment about if you're considering Google Plus as a social media platform purely for Martin? Because I've seen many discussions now about this whole point of Vivek saying it's not a social media platform, it's a social layer. And I love that. There you go. Let me just.
I like mine. Yeah.
There we go. So if you're considering Google Plus as a social media platform, it is a failure because Google did not create a platform; they created a layer. There we go. Thanks, Vivek. I always enjoy that. That's always a nice one. Well, look, let me move on. We've spent some time on that, and Martin, thank you as ever for making me do this all the time.
It's fine.
I'm going to stop. Consciously stop. That's your move, right? I can't steal a move. Okay, fine. So let's move on. So one of the things, and I'll be absolutely open about this. One of the social platforms that I have looked at least in understanding Google Plus is Pinterest, and yet, ironically, with Google Plus, there is a huge link with Pinterest. A lot of the Google Pluses out there love using Pinterest. They use Pinterest links for people to encourage people to read the posts later, to store them on Pinterest. And primarily, I use Pinterest as a bookmarking platform at the moment. I have my speech boards where if I'm writing a speech, I pin all of the articles I want to reference in there. And I keep everything neat and tidy. But do I use it necessarily as a social platform? And have I got a strategy behind it? No. And so Anna Bennett's come on here, all the way from Canada, very kind. And Anna, can you tell us a little bit about Pinterest, why you use it, what your top tips are, what you think about it? It would be really great to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, James, thanks so much for having me. All right, just like yourself, James, I actually didn't quite get Pinterest in the beginning. Someone had sent me an invitation, and at the time, Pinterest, you can only engage with it if somebody actually had invited you. And I just didn't get the whole picture about, okay, this is another social platform. How is that possible? We're just, sharing images here. What's the whole point about sharing the images? But what I have found with Pinterest, and the reason why I really wanted to just focus on it and became very passionate over time, because at the end of the day, we all want traffic, more traffic to our website, and Pinterest is that type of tool. If you're using it for business, it will help you drive more traffic to your site. a lot of publishers like, New York Times or BuzzFeed, they're getting tremendous traffic from Pinterest, and still a lot of, marketers are still not they're not quite sure on how to use Pinterest, to help businesses. But for the most part, I honestly believe that it just drives a lot of traffic. So you can easily, check your Google Analytics, and don't be surprised if Pinterest is one of your traffic drivers.
Absolutely. So have you got, what are your top tips? How should we be using Pinterest better? Let's put it that way around. What is your best tip you can give us?
Well, just like all social media, you need to have a plan, right? What's the purpose of you? Why do you want to be engaged on Pinterest? So naturally, you have to understand about, what it can do for you, what the platform can do for you. Like I said, it will drive traffic. So let's just say, for bloggers, how do you get more traffic to your blog site? Well, publishers and bloggers are getting tremendous amount of traffic from Pinterest. There's over 5 million articles actually being shared on Pinterest on a daily basis. So as a blogger, one of the things that you can do is make sure that you have that pin it button right underneath your cover image or at the end of your blog post. That triggers readers to share your content on Pinterest. But more so, if you have those pin it buttons, your follow me buttons on your website, it does help you rank high on Pinterest. But yeah, I got tons of tips. But if you want to narrow on something, just let me know.
I tell you, one of the ones which I hear a lot is about the rich pins, and from SEO purposes, it seems to be very hot in the news at the moment about always use Pinterest rich pins. Can you just clarify for those of us who don't use Pinterest as much exactly what that means, what we should be doing with them? Okay.
Well, there's 5 different types of rich pins on Pinterest, but to keep it really simple, it helps you stand out from people's feeds. So let's take your blog as an example. So if you actually installed what you call an article rich pin, so article is one of those 5 rich pins, you do have to apply for it. So what happens is that once you get approved, you get this article rich pin. So why does that matter? Well, because on the home feed, it just stands out more. You have your blog title. It's in bold font. It's got your website address and additional information. So it helps you stand out more. But what's really interesting is that it also helps you rank high on Google. So it's really important to do that, is to make sure that you apply for those rich pins.
So how does a rich pin help you rank higher on Google? How does that work?
You'd have to contact the engineers on Pinterest, but basically, obviously I follow what they do, what the engineers talk about. They've got, obviously SEO experts on there, but from what they know, it actually just helps you rank high on Google, and and again, it gets you more click-throughs, which obviously you want. If somebody sees your blog post, obviously it's an image. It just gets more click-throughs as well.
Okay, all right, fine. And obviously, as many people will see, probably again on the live or recorded version of this, there's a Showcase app which has got your course running through. So you run a course pretty much exclusively on Pinterest. So what about other things that people should be doing as general housekeeping or basic tips from being a better Pinterest user? Can you just share with us a few of those?
Well, I think the huge thing is really optimization. Yes, okay, so Pinterest is a visual discovery tool, right? Like you said, for you, James, you go on there and you reserve articles for, it's like your resource pool. So for Pinterest, you really want to optimize. You can actually optimize your Pinterest page so that you do rank high on Pinterest search engine, and also on Google. Like for myself, as you know, as a B2B, a service company, I've been able to rank high on Google because of Pinterest. You know, anytime you type in Pinterest expert or Pinterest consultant, you know, you will see my Pinterest account show up on the first page of Google. It's such a ginormous search engine, but also because I've been able to apply those SEO tactics to help you rank high.
I need to look at it a little bit more. I simply don't use Pinterest at all, and I certainly know from discussions how important it is. And you mentioned about it being a very visual platform. One of the big tips that I've got for anybody out there in terms of the visual nature is I've been using Canva a lot recently in terms of the generating images and making them work an awful lot better, because I presume images are absolutely fundamental to the way that Pinterest is utilized. I presume on that, Anna. I mean, is that the fundamental bit about it all?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely all visual. So for those people that are thinking, well, you know, I don't have any images. What am I going to share on Pinterest so that I can leverage this social network and get that traffic that I'm looking for on my site. So you can, again, as a blogger, every time you're creating a post, you should have a cover image. You mentioned Canva. Canva is a great tool. It doesn't even cost you anything really to create these cover templates. And Canva actually has already a preset templates for Pinterest. And again, you know, your image has to be at least around about 800 by 1200.
Wow, look at that! Wow.
Yeah, 800 by 1200 pixels. And you know, that size is also, you know, and good for all other social networks. So I mean, to me, it just makes sense to just stay focused on that size. But you know, it's very image driven. You obviously want it to be very something that will provoke you to share it. You know, it's a very emotional, not emotional, but I mean, it draws out emotion. When you're on Pinterest, you get a certain kind of feeling that you don't necessarily maybe get in other socials, because it is so visual, and most of us are visual learners, right? So if you're scanning through websites and you're trying to get as much information, well, you know, our brain processes visual 60,000 times faster than text. And as you know, for most marketers, it's always been about visuals. You know, the last few months, there's been a lot of emphasis with Twitter, with their cover image. So it shouldn't be a surprise that, you know, Pinterest is doing so well, because it's a visual site. It's a visual discovery tool.
It's true. I was told it was the stickiest site out there. But Nazim and Martin, I think you had a question for us. Is that right?
Yeah, I had just this whole what I'm very curious about Pinterest is it's always been considered a female environment. There's a lot of women on it. That to me is how true is that? Is that shifting? Is you know, the user base, men getting involved in it more? How do you see it, Anna?
Really, really great question. Actually, you know what? That is true. Predominantly, you know, over 80% of users on Pinterest are women. But what's interesting in the UK is actually there are more male users using Pinterest in the UK, which I find really interesting. I have no clue why. But you know, men are pinning for different reasons, but food and drink is definitely the one category that is on the top of the list for both men and women users. But let's not forget, as a marketer, you're going, okay, you know, it's predominantly female. Is this going to be good for my client? You know, because it's all women. You know, let's not forget that women are on the internet a lot more than men. Women are predominantly the main the main person in your family household that are going to make those decisions in terms of buying. We have a lot of influence over men.
Hang on a minute. No. Let me tell you, right. I wear the trousers in my relationship.
Right. So
I just get told which colour to wear. That's the problem.
So did your wife tell you to put on that yellow shirt today, James? Come on, I'm sure she had something.
Do you know the worst thing? I couldn't realise. It was because it's so miserable outside. I wanted to wear yellow, and then for some reason I wore green trousers. What's that about?
All right.
In the summer, I don't get it at all.
All right. So that's the thing is and really Pinterest, people go on there with a buying mindset. They're looking for stuff that they love, right? I mean, at some point, there's like a psychological trigger there. It's like you're constantly looking at something over and over about the kind of stuff you love, what you want to do, what you want to create, what you want to plan for. It's a platform where you're using it to better your life.
What's very interesting is my wife's a makeup artist, and she is constantly on the platform because of fashion issues, looking at the trends, and she just adores it. Yeah, so
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
We've got 10%, guys. Just a quick one. Martin, you wanted to have a question, I think?
Yeah, well, a comment actually, but I've got well, you've just sprung another point. Actually, a comment, and I think everybody needs to understand something about Anna, which I'm going to come on to in a sec, which is very impressive. These places, they have a different culture. They have different behaviors. They have different content. We interact with it differently based upon where we're at with that thing. And I think one of the things that needs to happen, I'm talking my perspective as well, my Pinterest use is limited, even though I've got my boards and everything else there, and I do pin once in a while. They have their own thing going on. You kind of got to get into it to understand what that thing is. And it's not necessarily pushing your Google Plus stuff over and going, hey, I do this on Google Plus. It's like it's a different place. It's a different feeling, a different vibe. Anna, I've just did a little bit in the background incognito mode. If you search for Pinterest expert incognito, I just did, Anna comes up #1. If you look for Pinterest consultant, I just looked, Anna comes up at #1. Anna's got almost 20,000 people that follow her, just extra social proof. But the thing is, the perspective that Anna has of Pinterest is the bit which is of greater value than trying to give a formula. Because I think that's the thing, is it almost becomes a different language, and the education that we all need is you've got to understand this place. Know how this works here. And it's the same when people come to Google Plus. You go, it's not about the formatting of the post, it's not about, you've got to understand that it's a different vibe. Because the platform, the part that we post in, even aside the social layer, even just that bit, is different. So I think, Anna, it's great to see, and I just wanted to make sure people have got that social proof for you, and so they realize that you can do some pretty cool things. And I know from an SEO point of view, I don't know with individual posts, because I tend to do everything social SEO from within Google+, but for boards, I know you can get some good, decent rankings on boards for Pinterest very easily, actually. Mm-hmm. So that's something to be considering as well, not just your whole profile, but your board. So if Anna's got more to give on that, that's great.
Yeah.
There you go. That was it.
No, really great point there, Martin. So with boards, definitely you can optimize your boards. And one of the most common mistakes that I see people do on Pinterest, if you're using it for business, okay, is people tend to give their board titles really clever, artistic names. Like, for example, if you're an e-commerce site and you're specializing in denim jeans, if you name your board title, say, Bootylicious, which is really, pretty cool, you have to ask yourself, are people actually going to search for that keyword on Pinterest search engine? Probably not. So you need to keep your board titles simple and to the point, and make sure you're always injecting those keywords there.
Sorry.
Oh, I think that's Martin coming in, but sorry, Nazim, was that a question from you?
I thought I'd reposition.
Hang on, no, it wasn't. It was Martin coming in. There you are, Martin's repositioned.
I thought I'd muted myself. I was being so diligent as a Hangout guest. I just thought sorry.
I kept on getting little. Sorry. But let me just ask one final question on this, because Vivek's brought up a question in the stream about Pinterest and mobiles. Is it a good mix?
Pinterest and mobile, is it a good mix?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure how they mean by it's a good mix. What I can tell you is that over 75% of Pinterest users use Pinterest on their mobile devices. So again, you know, I'm not sure what the viewer is really asking about the mobile, but you know, that's one stat that I can share with you.
Well, there's a question for you. So is Pinterest and mobiles, is that a good mix? Google thinks internet is going mobile, cell phone way. What do the panel think? So I presume, I mean, the very nature 75% of people that are using Pinterest are using it from a mobile device. I mean, it's obviously a good move.
Yes.
So it's pretty straightforward. Okay, fine. Look, we've got 5 minutes left. I wanted to bring in something which I know, Kath, you'd mentioned right at the start, talking about Flash. And I'm going to put this link that you shared in the chat to us into the showcase for people to pick up on this. What was it, Kath, that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, just very quickly, PO Far yesterday announced that, okay, so you've got a mobile phone and you're doing a search on Google, you've got your search results, you're going to get a snippet telling you that you've got that if you click through to that link, you're going to see flash heavy pages. So the website that you're potentially going to click through to might not display properly on your phone, on your mobile device. This is rolling out in Japanese queries, Spanish, and English.co.uk. I don't know where's .com. They're usually first, so I don't know, is this already out in .com and this is new coming to us? But I really picked up on that because it's saying English queries. I've tried it on my phone yesterday. I actually haven't tried it today. It didn't work yesterday, but it's rolling out, so just means that should be coming. But I think that's really interesting that Google are really concentrating on feeding, you know, the user experience on mobile and giving people this heads up. So we all know Flash is not a good idea for search. This definitely puts the nail in that coffin, I think.
Yeah, Flash is. Yeah, the developing company that is my company here with Work Program. We dropped Flash quite a while back.
Oh, well, there we are. Well, look, all the information that you need on that, I've actually just put it into the Showcase app now. It's live if you want to click through and understand a little bit more on that. But look, I'm going to bring it to a close a little bit. But normally what I do on this show is, if we have time, I squeeze in a little bit of information about sort of the future of marketing, because as much as I look at where the social and digital space is, I always look, and I have a big bias in a lot of the talking events that I do, is talking about the future of marketing, where we're up to. And one of the bits of news which happened this week for me was a leak, in fact. And I'm just going to screen share this device, which is just coming up now, because there was a leak that Samsung have actually accelerated their VR product. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, I mentioned about the virtual reality and my thoughts about where we are going with it in terms of as a consumer-based product, and how the very nature of the Facebook side is completely naturally shifting. That I think their business model is changing fundamentally over the next 2 to 5 years. But this came out. This is a picture here, which it should be shared now, of the Samsung VR product, which is going to be compatible with the Note 4. I currently have the Note 3. It's about the size of my body, but this is a Note 4, and it's basically an untethered VR device, which means that by that it's not connected to a PC, and so all of the content is all going to be placed in the middle here, which is your phone. So suddenly, and this is going to be retailing, from what I understand, under the $200 mark. So it's also, we're not looking at expensive devices here. We're talking about, you know, relatively cheap for consumers to use. And suddenly, I mean, the very nature of gaming is going to change come the end of this year. So it's a lot earlier than a lot of people thought. So I just wanted to bring that out. I think it's 1st of December. They've mentioned that it might sneak out. So I think that's pretty big news. But okay, any final comments from anybody out there before we close this off? Nazim, I know you've stayed around for a little bit. Thanks so much. Have you got anything to finish on?
No, basically, I mean, if you want to just check out LO, you know, you've seen the links in there. And I invite people to look at it. I mean, so, you know, as much as it might be something that some people say, well, it's not for me, it's a waste of time, I think it's an interesting platform to consider.
Fantastic. And actually, before you go, I wanted to bring this up because this is Nazim's profile picture, right? And I don't know how many of you get to really look at this closely, but it's always confused me. It's a bit pixelated. But look, is that you, Nazim, there?
That is me and my wife when we got married in 1992 on South Beach in Miami,
Who's this guy?
Florida.
Who's he?
And the guy on the left, and he's a sax player that he was at the party like 2 days before, and we hired him to play at our wedding on the beach.
I just love the way it was almost like he was trying to push you out the way, which I thought I quite enjoy.
I've always had a debate with Martin about the fact that, you know, I should have my face in there, and I just put this from the beginning in Google Plus, and now I think I reached a point where I think I can keep it.
Well, I love the fact that if you look at this closely, it actually looks like you're almost kissing right at the top of her forehead. You completely missed her lips and her nose, and you're going right at the top of her head. So I love it. It always made me smile. The moment that I saw it, I thought that is absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
So, anyway, Nazim, I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much. Martin, any final words from you?
See everybody in the community. See you in Plus Your Business.
Fantastic.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
It's sunny here. Very sunny here. That's what I got to say. Sunnier than Wales.
Yeah, a bit wet here. Kath, anything from you except from I hope you feel better.
I do. And my brain's fried, actually. I just got to do a correction. This flash thing on mobile's been out in the States for several months. It's new to the UK. It was there in the post, but my brain skipped past it. I knew you guys would have it first. Who's in America? Anna.
Go and have some hot toddy and hope you feel better.
Go back to bed. Thanks, James.
No, my pleasure. And Anna, any final words from you?
Actually, just the one thing that Pinterest made changes on just the last few days is that they now call their home feed Smart Feed. Okay, and there's reasons for that. They've come up with a new algorithm of how they're now going to start showing pins on your home feed. So for those who don't know what the original Pinterest home feed is, it's pretty much like your news feed on Facebook. So they're now calling it Smart Feed, yeah, like I said, they now are using an algorithm on what kind of content they're going to be pushing in your feed. But the bottom line is they always preserve the user's interest, and it's going to be more of the type of content that you really, really want. But there's some heavy lifting that you need to do. You can't just count on the number of followers that you have, or the types of, or the number of pins that you're pushing content. There's a lot more work that you've got to do now to stand out.
Absolutely. Well, look, I'm just going to finish on what you said, and I sadly can't bring it in, but Ursula has dropped a stat in from social media today stating that something like, and she's going to clarify, and do, if you find the article, do share it, Ursula, I'll put it in the showcase here, that 40-something% of Pinterest users pull up pins while they are inside stores. So yes, I'd say Pinterest and mobiles are a perfect fit. So that answers sort of Vivek's comment in there. I just want to bring up William Rock's comment from earlier on about you, Kath. You hit the nail on the head, and I think this is actually for everything, not just the SEO world. Keep your clients educated, not surprised, which I think is absolutely spot on. And one thing which I think is quite sweet, Peter, bless you, I always think it's odd that Google called it Panda when pandas are cuddly and round, but Google Panda is about thin content, which sums it up really for me. But look, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me from the film strip. I really appreciate your time, as always. Join us next week, same time. We do, as you know, we swap around our shows. Next week we've got the data show, and we're interviewing the guys from Chartbeat about their social analytics tool, which is all about real-time analytics. And they've done some pretty incredible stuff with NBS, Forbes, all of the big publishers out there looking at real-time content, real-time analysis, and how you work with that in your analytics spectrum. So that's coming on next week at the same time. And then the week after that, we've got some great guys. We've discussed a lot here about design, actually, with Anna's segment. We've got Dustin Stout coming on. We've got Joshua Berg coming on, talking about the SEO world. I think we've got Wade Harmon coming on. We've got a group of other guys, and that's in 2 weeks from today. So with that, thank you for all your time. Thanks, guys, in the film strip. Thanks for you watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers, everyone.
Ciao.